Welcome back, everybody. It is your favorite apostates again. I, of course, am McKay.
And I am Jordan.
And today I am drinking my sinful bean water.
I am not.
Otherwise known as coffee. I made that comment last time in the video, and some people were really confused. So if you didn't catch that, that's
bean
what
water.
I refer to as coffee, because when you're a Mormon, you're not allowed to drink coffee. But I love it. So that's good. Also, over the weekend, we surpassed 4,000 subscribers.
Which is like mind-blowing, you guys.
It's mind-blowing that 4,000 people are like, yeah, I want to see their shit in my subscription box on a regular basis.
Subscription box?
Yeah, that's what it's called. She doesn't know you do.
I don't know.
So that's amazing.
So thank you. We are truly honored.
Yeah, we really don't think we're as worthy of the attention that we get.
So thank you for being
here. But apparently all of you would like to disagree with that. So thank you. This today I'm going to try to touch my hair less, because somebody commented on one of our videos and said that I need to stop touching my hair. So
here's a pro tip. If you don't have anything nice to say or anything constructive or something that somebody can't fix in 10 seconds, stop saying it.
Don't request it. I touch my hair because it gets in my face.
Same.
We're probably going to cut a lot of this out.
Okay.
Okay.
So what are we doing today, McKay?
Well, have we got the topic for you all? We, after before we even reacted to the Girl Defined video, we went ahead and got their book secondhand. We're not trying to give them any sales or anything like that. So we went and we got their book, and it was just delivered this weekend. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to share a little bit from this book. What's it called? Sex, Purity, and the Longings of a Girl's Heart: Discovering the Beauty and Freedom of God-Defined Sexuality. Which the subtitle there, it just makes me feel weird. This kind of an idea of involving God in your sexuality was kind of a narrative in Mormonism as well. Like, the Lord should be involved in the bedroom. It just creeped me out, man. I was not about it. So just reading off of what we started off reading in was a little bit awkward.
So, full disclosure.
Yeah.
We will be talking about sex in this episode. Not, graphically, obviously.
Yeah.
And then we'll also be talking about kind of the premise of basically the first 2 chapters, and a lot of the book focuses on pornography. So, I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of do a deep dive into the research surrounding pornography. Coming from a religion where it is very anti-porn.
Prohibited. They're talking about it on a monthly basis in church and on a semi-annual basis in General Conference.
The legislature passed something, I think it was a declaration, that said porn is a public health crisis in Utah.
The state of Utah.
Fun fact, porn use in Utah is the highest of all the states, which is part of the reason that happened. Public health crisis. I'm not quite sure. So
maybe let's focus on the opioid epidemic.
Maybe let's start with that.
That would be kind of constructive.
But that's why we did some research, peer-reviewed journal articles. I am in grad school for social work, so this is right up my alley. This stuff is super fascinating to me. So I wanted to make sure that we basically not only snark on this book because it's stupid, but actually provide you some factual information about these things instead of continuing to spread more idiocy, essentially.
Yeah. False narratives.
Yes.
I figured we should probably start off with the kind of opening narrative. Just read it to you, because honestly, I've got a couple thoughts on it, and you just have to hear it. It's kind of silly. The first chapter we found on their website. It was free to read.
You can actually read the first chapter on their website
free.
If you're interested. I would not recommend.
I don't recommend it. It
0 out of 10.
Definitely, the only reason it grabbed our attention was because we were like, what the f***? So, Let's read the opening narrative, and we'll share some thoughts on it.
Okay, so first of all, the chapter and kind of the overall theme within the book that they keep going back to is called "We're All Sexually Broken," which
not off to a good start.
Right off the bat, not a fan of that.
Not a fan.
All right, so here we go. First chapter. We're not going to read the whole thing to you, but this magazine was unlike anything Bethany, had ever seen before in my short years of life. I stared down at its pages flopping in the wind. The once glossy cover was dirty and worn, as though one too many cars had run over it. But the images, what was this?
What was this? Looking
up, I saw a 10-year-old Kristen walking toward me on the sidewalk. And if you're not familiar, Kristen and Bethany are the authors of this book. Hey, come here, I said to her in a half whisper. I found something really interesting. Kristen hurried toward me. What is it? She asked. I don't know, I responded. Once Kristen reached me, she looked down at the magazine lying at my feet. Like a natural big sister, she picked it up without hesitation. After staring at the cover for several seconds, she flipped through the crumpled pages, looking at me with a nervous face. She quietly said, come on, let's go inside. She rolled the magazine up in her hands, and we quietly went inside the house. Once we were in one of the bedrooms, the door shut. Kristen dropped the magazine on the floor. We both stood there silently for several minutes. We weren't sure what to do. After gaining some courage, we began to flip through the pages. I don't understand what's happening here, I said to Kristen while pausing on the full-page images. I'm not sure either, she said. Kristen and I, innocent girls, were being exposed to pornographic images for the first time in our lives. Our little hearts beat faster. Although we didn't understand the images we were seeing, we knew something wasn't right. After several more minutes passed, Kristen suddenly shut the magazine and said, we need to get rid of this. Yeah, I think so too.
Get it out of here,
I said as I stood up. With sweaty palms, we checked the hallway, quickly dashed outside, and ran down the sidewalk. The fresh air and bright sunshine felt good. Stupid detail. Here, Kristen said, suddenly stopping. We were 4 houses down from our home, standing near our neighbor's large brick mailbox. She started digging in the ground with her hands. Help me, she said in a whispered panic. What are we doing? Why are you Oh, you're going to bury it.
Oh.
Jumping on the ground to help her, I ripped up that rock-infested dirt.
Okay, I marked that word, rock-infested. Also, the feel of some of the descriptors in this this passage here, it feels like they were trying to meet a word count requirement
in high school,
and they were
and you're
just
throwing in random words.
throwing in shit. Rock infested, hyphenated, of course.
Rock infested dirt.
Rock infested dirt. Just say rocky.
I never wanted to see those strange images again. Once the hole was big enough, we folded the magazine into fourths and laid it inside. Working as a team, we piled the dirt back into the hole. With our hands slightly bleeding and our nails jammed with dirt, we stood back. We looked at our little pile. The tiny dirt mound resembled a miniature gravesite. We felt free. That strange magazine had made us feel weird. Wiping our dirty hands on our floral t-shirts, we headed back to the house. Our secret would remain as buried as that magazine for the next decade.
Okay. My initial thought upon reading this, I was like, there's no way on God's green earth that this is actually happening the way it's described. Now, I will yield that it probably did happen in some capacity, but the recollection of something that happened 15 to 20 years ago, there's definitely a lot of fabrication there.
Well, and I don't understand the need to bury it. You could have just thrown it away.
Yeah.
Throw it in the bin.
That's an interesting kind of line of thought. But I feel like that was kind of added in there for kind of dramatic purposes to be like, oh my gosh, this is so evil. And we need to get rid of it by putting it the closest place to hell that we can, which is below the dirt. Also, they just dug in their neighbor's yard. What a bunch of assholes.
I feel like, especially if they were trying to be inconspicuous, I feel like it would be less weird to just throw it in a trash can or a dumpster by your house than to bury it in your neighbor's yard.
Or a canal.
I don't know.
The river or something like that. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the neighbor had a pleasant surprise.
Also, it feels really...
he happened upon the dirt mound.
LOL. Well, also, it seems weird to me. I feel like Bethany and Kristen aren't that old. And so, like, I've heard of, like, my, like, people my parents' age and my grandmother's age running across, like, Playboy magazines. But people like Kristen and Bethany's age, I feel like are just way too young.
Yeah. Well,
to come across something like that.
when I was in 5th grade, this kid had some magazines in my class from his dad. So I feel like maybe...
Well, some people think
know.
Cosmo was porn,
It was
so...
Yeah, it was... Well, this was in Colorado, so... But, I mean, like, middle of the 2000s...
All right, maybe...
I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities out there.
That's true. That's true.
So, and... I don't know. Do you remember, like, the first time you were, like, exposed?
Yeah.
I want to get the super zoom there.
Yeah.
Did you have a similar reaction to this as a young Mormon girl?
Because of religiosity?
Because of religiosity? Dang. See, and I don't think I had the same, and I don't want to say that men and women are different, because even they will admit that men and women are kind of similar.
Which I appreciate in some sense.
Yeah, so thumbs up to them in being, like, owning, like, oh yeah. Later on in this first chapter, they're like, yeah, I had these lustful thoughts, super zoom, and things like that. So I do appreciate that. There's one good thing. There's our one nice thing.
The myth that women don't watch porn, we can do away with that, because we know that's not true.
Totally false. Let's see. Let's just peruse over the next little bit. They just kind of talk about, like, after that we kind of grow up. I often wondered, are these good feelings or bad feelings?
Also, let's not attach good or bad to a feeling.
Yeah, no. It's just a feeling.
In my humble opinion, there is no such thing as a bad feeling.
Yep.
Even things like anger, sadness, depression are not necessarily bad feelings, so let's not assign
Yeah, they're just different.
a connotation to them when it's not needed.
Yeah. They can be on the extreme of the spectrum of emotion, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Also, they were talking about how this was basically just kind of swept under the rug for both of them. They never talked about it with their parents, which I will also add, as growing up as a Mormon teen, this was not something that I felt comfortable asking my parents about, especially with the extremely negative connotations that pornography have in the Mormon community. And we are not exaggerating when we're talking, like, they treat it like poison. Mm-hmm. And
sure, some of it out there is not cool.
Not good, yeah, okay? Obviously.
We're not going to yuck someone else's yum,
illegal.
But we're not doing that. But there are some, like, we're not talking about, because people are going to come for us on this video and be like, some porn is poison. And let's be clear, we're not talking about criminality, criminal offenses, CP. We're not talking about any of those things.
Nature.
We're talking about consensual adults engaging in
sex acts on camera,
adult activities. Okay, and there is ethical pornography being made out there. It is out there, and you're not gonna find it for free, and you're gonna have to pay for it, and you're gonna have to do your research. But it is out there, and so we're not talking about the icky stuff, but we're also not gonna yuck someone else's yum. So that's not what we're here to do.
What was I? So yeah, that's how the Mormon Church paints it, and because of that, any sort of question or thing that I came across, I did not feel comfortable talking to anybody about, because then I would be admitting to sin that I would have to talk to the bishop about as a young child.
In Mormonism, watching pornography is considered a sexual sin. All sexual sins require confession to a bishop.
And he has to help you resolve the sin, because he's the leader of the congregation, and he has the keys, the priesthood keys, to be able to guide you through the repentance process. So it sounds like they grew up in a similar kind of frame of mind when it comes to sexual explicit content and things like that. So they didn't talk to their parents, and these kids were 8 and 10, which is plenty old to have had the sex talk, and they're coming across these images and they're like, oh, what's going on? So shame on you to these kids' parents.
I recommend.
I'll get off my soapbox now.
Yeah. Sexual education, sex education is another huge issue. Yep. That would require a whole other video to get into that I could spend a ton of time on. But that is partially on, include pornography in your sex education. What it is, what it looks like, how to avoid it. Because when we're talking about minors, this is not something, especially 8 and 10-year-olds, this is not images that we want them to be accessing at this point. That's for anybody, that's for other parents to decide as they get into adolescence and teenage years. But so lots of toxic things around sexual shame happening here. Just right off the bat.
Yeah, and then they come into the we're all sexually broken. And some of what they rationalized that was the words, and these are the words of a doctor. I'm going to cite this person because if you're out there, I don't like you. Dr. Julie Slattery, who apparently is some sort of like sex expert in this biblical scope or something like that. I can't find what exactly.
What's her name?
Julie Slattery. Does she have any like clout? Widely known clinical psychologist.
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Anyway, we're already not a fan because, let's see, made the statement that we are all sexually broken. As we've grown in our understanding of God's design for our sexuality, we've realized she's right. People aren't either sexually whole or sexually broken. The reality is we're all sexually broken, which is not a good frame of mind to have as a child, that you're inherently broken. Again,
we're assigning a negative connotation to something that's already shame-flooded, and we don't need to do that any further. And religions, organized religions especially, are really, really good at this.
So you're just leveling the playing field for people who are like, wow, I'm sexually broken because I've seen pornography. And those people are feeling the same way as the person who was sexually assaulted. Those are not the same thing.
No.
So let's allow victims of crimes like that to have their own space, not just like totally.
We're using sweeping generalizations here.
Just and generalizing.
Negative in context. So this is not like a. We want to continue to affirm children and regarding every part of themselves, including their sexuality, because it's normal. And so telling them that they're broken or because I feel like their audience is primarily young adult women.
Yeah.
Telling young adult women that they're sexually broken is not. I kind of understand where they're coming from and using it, but I don't appreciate the verbiage.
Yeah, no, it's not great. So they also, when they were writing this book, they put out a survey through their website. They had like 450 responses. They highlighted a couple. We'll just read those because why not? I have been struggling with porn for a while now, and I don't know what to do. I'm ashamed and scared of letting my secret out. I need help, but I can't get it because I'm too ashamed to tell others. So shame causing paralysis to remedy their issue. So that's not great. I was a victim of several sexually abusive situations as a young girl. I've had a lot of issues as a result and have spent most of my adult life fighting addiction and depression. Okay.
That's a serious issue, and I would not recommend reading this book as a form of...
Go to a therapist.
Seek treatment.
Yeah, seek help, please. I struggle with same-sex attraction, which... No. I hate that term.
Mormons use that term all the time.
Yeah, you don't struggle with it. Your religion is telling you that it's wrong.
That you should, yeah.
And that is just how you are. So it's the cognitive dissonance of, I want to believe this, but it's not who I am. So you don't struggle with it. I hope that you can end up seeing that. This has been an issue for my in my life for as long.
With it. Let's phrase it that way.
Yeah, you don't need to struggle with it. This has been an issue in my life for as long as I can remember. If it's so wrong, why doesn't God take my desires away? Because apparently God is not all powerful. Sorry to tell you.
It's a great question.
My mind is a war zone. All my Call of Duty players out there. Lust is almost constantly invading my thoughts. So that's what these girl-defined women have to say. And what the response is, these are real Christian women struggling, hurting. Each one of them is experiencing some form of sexual brokenness. Whether she is committing a sin or sin is being committed against her, each woman is suffering.
Okay. We're a wee bit dramatic here.
That is a little bit dramatic.
They go on to say the only way to redeem our sexuality is return back to the one
who created us. So in order to redeem your sexuality. So they're contradicting their point. You can be spiritually whole, but only through God. Otherwise, sexually whole, but only through God. Otherwise, everybody's sexually broken. So basically, they're telling people, well, you can be sexually whole, even though you can't. But the only way is to do it through God and invite him into your bedroom, I guess. It's gross. I don't like it. And they also, he wants to transform your brokenness into beauty for his glory. I
do not like that.
I don't.
Especially in the framework of sexuality.
Yeah.
That's just not.
It's weird. And I didn't really think it. Well, that's a lie. Even when we got married, I thought it was weird that people are like, oh, yeah, we always involve the Lord in our sex.
Even for as long as
I've never heard anybody say that.
We thought it was weird, and
it's weird.
The Mormon Church does insert them. Has previously in the 80s or the 90s, was it when that letter came out?
80s, yeah, 80s, like 82.
They did send the first presidency. The prophet, the head of the church, leadership of the church, did send out a letter at one time saying that
oral sex
was bad and shouldn't be done, and it was against the laws of man.
Sin, and
whatever.
That if you were participating in it, that your temple recommend would be suspended until you were able to repent with your bishop.
So,
and that only lasted 9 months because everybody was doing it. So
it went
good on them.
Kind of quietly into the night after that.
Never rescinded.
Never rescinded.
But never talked about it
again. But now the typical stance within the Mormon Church is that what you do in your bedroom is your business.
Yeah.
But it all has to, there are some caveats to that being, primarily, it has to be within the bounds of marriage, right? You have to be married. It has to be a heterosexual marriage. Things like swinging, threesomes,
monogamous.
Those types of things are
not
allowed. Those would be considered breaking your temple covenants, so you cannot participate in those types of things. So there are some restrictions, but those are probably pretty common to other type of organized religions. I don't think Mormonism is unique in that sense. And there's no, I think there's some Christian churches that do this, but I don't remember who was telling me that they went to couples counseling with their pastor in their church before they got married to kind of discuss some of those things. The Mormon Church does not do that. Mm-hmm. There's no discussion, there's no class you have to take where this is how you be married, and this is that. They don't do things like that. A Mormon would tell you that that's inherently baked into
they do have
doctrine.
Marriage, preparing to temple marriage.
They have temple prep classes.
They have in Institute. They have temple marriage.
That's true.
Prep. Yeah, remember Kylene was talking about it?
Yeah, they do. So, I never took it.
Eternal families. Yeah. I took that
at BYU, so you can take a class like that. But it's not required. You don't have to take it before you get married. So there's no there's nothing along those lines. And there's also the primary issue that we hear from people is the transition that's made from sex is bad, sex is awful, sex is sinful.
It's wrong. You can't do
bad.
it. Don't look at porn. Don't touch yourself.
No touching yourself. Making that transition to suddenly you're married and whoop, sex is okay now.
Everything between you two is good to go.
It's
Green light.
And so after years of shame.
No.
And no. We have to suddenly transition into yes. And a lot of couples, particularly Mormon couples, struggle with, and I'm sure it happens in Christian and Catholic, and once you make that like really other side of the spectrum swap over to sex is now okay in this context, it's still really hard to abandon all of those.
Yeah, the shame and things that happen.
Yeah. And so
along those lines. That's
also super common, and there's nothing to address that. There's not like they don't teach you, like, once you're married, you don't get to go to, like, a special class where it's like, okay, sex is cool, and, you know, you can...
Here's what you do.
You can do X, Y, and Z, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like, none of that happens. None of that happens. And so there's a lot of sexuality, struggle, shame issues within the context of Mormonism. Their sexual therapists here, like sex therapists, are huge here in Utah. There's only a few of them that are actually like certified, and their wait lists, I have heard, are quite extensive because of how many people, how many Mormons in particular, are looking for a certified sex therapist to help them navigate these types of things. And that could be anything on the sexual spectrum, from porn to just adjusting to new sexuality, being marriage, to previous abuse, to like just open communication about sexuality in a marriage. Like, these are like, sex is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Within Mormonism. Yeah. And so I imagine that that's probably decently common in other organized religions that have similar boundaries around sex, if you will.
I'm sure we'll get to some of that in this book.
So before we jump into and I've read the book, the majority of it, and I say into the thick of it because TikTok's in my mind. But before we get into the thick of it, there's not a lot of substance to this book. It's a lot of fluff. And so before we jump into the kind of nitty gritty of it as we move forward, I wanted to address at least some research-based things about pornography, just right off the bat, because pornography is going to continually be revisited in this book. And so I want to, straight off the bat, let's address some of these things, just so we know from the get-go
what and where we stand.
Right.
And also where science stands on this. Recently, we've been listening to a bunch of podcasts with Natasha Helfer. She was in the news recently because she is a notorious, I'll say that now, sex therapist here in Utah. And
if you watched our other video, you know who she is.
She was excommunicated by the church. And now I'm seeing 100% why. I'm like, damn, that took so long to excommunicate this girl. But she's awesome. And we've been listening to the podcasts and things with her.
We'll link her podcast in the description so you can listen to it.
She's awesome. And it's totally changing our, kind of shifting our paradigm. And there's a lot of research that we didn't know was out there.
Yeah.
That contradicts the narrative.
Yeah.
Of what we were taught. So Jordan compiled a bunch of stuff.
So I compiled a bunch of research. I have receipts for all of this. So if you want to come for me, and I will gladly send them to you over email, but you might have to pay for them because they're peer-reviewed journal articles. So
sorry, folks.
Okay. So the gist, let's talk about a few things. So there's been lots of studies on adult porn use and its effects. And this dates back to quite many years ago. We've got a lot of research to work with. However, we also have a lot of
misinformation,
biased information to work with as well. And any type of, like, you'll see as we go through this that a lot of times there will be one study that comes out with something that supports a particular political party's platform, or a particular politician will latch onto that one statistic and spread it far and wide. And so that information seems to be more common, or more things back it up than actually is out there. So just keep that in mind. So first of all, let's talk about some of the misconceptions about porn use, particularly within a couple or within a relationship. There was a 1989 study that said porn...
1989,
Yeah,
before
back.
the internet was really a household thing.
Yeah, and so one of the claims that you often hear is that porn makes you less interested in your partner. So that's pretty widely... I think that's
Disputed.
It's pretty widely disputed now. Obviously, there's gray area and all of this, so there might be situations where somebody, there's going to be outliers. We've got a traditional bell curve. There's going to be people on both ends of the spectrum, right? But there was a doctor who did a study. She basically replicated the original 1989 study to see if the results would be the same, and she disputed that study in its entirety. So the research does not support, in this case, that watching porn or porn use in a relationship makes you less interested in your partner. And then kind of one of the more, this goes back to like the Ted Bundy link and all of these things, is we often hear that there's a link between porn and violence.
We even believed that.
We even believe that.
Like,
that's widely held, I feel like, by society.
Yeah.
Research does not generally support that. The research that I've read, if there is a link, it's very, very small. They would say there's a slim link between the two.
And let's all say it together. Correlation is not causation.
And so the other thing is, as I was preparing for this, I read, and by the way, I am not an expert in any of this. I am a regular human being who did research of my own volition. And so I'm not coming to you from on a soapbox and saying, no, this is how you should think about it. I'm just presenting you the research that I found on my own as a regular human. So take that for what it's worth. But the person that wrote this article that I read made a good point. The people who gravitate toward unhealthy, violent porn are people who already have a disposition toward violence. So the problem in this case, it's not the porn. Like, if we have people that are gravitating toward violent porn, it's really, in studies, it's really difficult to account for that. It's really difficult to say, well, this person already had a predisposition towards violence.
Yeah.
And so...
Because who's going to admit... How would they get that information?
Right. And so that's why these kinds of things are kind of difficult, because you can't account for things like that in studies. And then another misconception, porn being a predictor of divorce. So this was interesting. There is some, this is going to it kind of blew my mind a little bit. Now keep in mind, this is one study, but we're looking at 3 different sets of data between 2006 and 2014, and researchers found the likelihood of divorce was doubled for Americans who began watching porn. Okay, so keep that in mind. Those who said they watched porn 2 to 3 times a month had the highest likelihood of separating. The study doesn't, however, resolve whether starting to watch porn is a cause of divorce or a symptom of an already unhappy relationship. So again, we have this kind of dilemma that is, are the people in these relationships already watching porn because they're unhappy with their relationship? And so the porn literally had nothing to do with the divorce because they were already unhappy. Or was it that they just started watching porn and then suddenly they're like, oh my God, I want a divorce? Now, I have my own opinions on how likely that is, but we can't account for those things in these type of studies. We can't rule out those pieces.
Those other factors.
But the really interesting part, the study also found that people with a very high viewing of porn at least once a day were less likely to divorce than those who never watched it. Fascinating, right?
That's interesting.
And so this stuff is...
That's weird.
That's weird. So this stuff is super, super interesting. So another thing that I found was interesting, and this is based off a study that they did in the Czech Republic. They found that as societies have increased their access to porn, rates of sex crimes, including exhibitionism, rape, and child abuse, have gone down. So this is super interesting. This has been supported in a few other studies that I've looked at. But that's fascinating that there might be
it makes
something
sense
there. Another study that I read found that those who watched porn with their partners, so we're talking both at the same time, not independently, reported feeling more dedicated and sexually satisfied in their relationships compared to those who watched it alone. And so another interesting... I feel like we hold porn in this very negative, ripping apart relationships light, which is the research doesn't support that, okay? The research does not. In some cases, sure, I'm not going to account for everyone. Again, we're talking about a bell curve, but in vast majority, that's not happening. And then the kind of important thing that I want to get to here is kind of the whole point of reading this book, coming to this point, focusing on all these things together, is when we have religiosity and porn kind of come together. And then we see some interesting things start to happen within the research, okay? So I will link the study of this one for you and allow me to remind you that porn addiction is not in the DSM, which is what we use to diagnose the criteria.
Edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual.
And so it is not in there. It is not recognized by psychiatrists, by social workers, by people who are able to diagnose. It's not recognized as something that is something that we diagnose at this point.
Interesting that we have 12-step programs for it here in Utah.
So keep that in mind. That I will let you. I will let you make draw your own conclusions about what that means for you. So let me read to you this piece. So there are 3 people that did this study, and they're leading researchers at UCLA. And they looked at the impact of porn use, belief in porn addiction, and the effect of porn on marriages. And so these 4 researchers, all who have to come into this with especially when we're talking about whether something needs to be included in the DSM, they're needing to come to this from a point of straight neutrality. Like we are talking about not on one side or the other. We are talking about straight, unbiased neutrality here. So they conducted like a huge study about what, even if there is a porn addiction, what that means, what that looks like. And they did a huge meta-analysis of research on porn and concluded that porn use does not predict problems with porn, but that religiosity does. So I'm going to repeat that again for you. After this meta-analysis of tons of data, tons of research, they concluded that porn use does not predict problems with porn, but that religiosity does. Okay, so let's talk about that for a moment. The distinction here being porn use isn't the issue. It's using porn or watching porn within the context of being religious.
The cognitive dissonance that exists when you are a religious person whose religion teaches strictly against the usage of porn, and you end up having or using porn is what is causing the issue here. So Jordan's got another.
So there's moral incongruence going on because it's not necessarily the porn itself that's causing the problem. It's your belief system. It's your morals, your values surrounding porn and what that is to you that is causing the issue.
It's like the forbidden fruit where you know you shouldn't, but it's like so irresistible.
So that's just making it worse. So a few things. So the researchers that I just talked about, they suggest that pornography problems due to moral incongruence, which is what they call it, appear to be the driving force in many of the people who report dysregulated, uncontrollable, or problematic pornography use. So even though many people who grew up in religious, sexually conservative households have strong negative feelings about pornography, many of those same people continue to use pornography and they feel guilty and ashamed of their behavior and are angry at themselves and their desire to watch more. And so sex therapists, I have listened to many a sex therapist who have said this combination of porn use and religiosity it's mind-blowing that the religiosity piece is the piece that's contributing to making this such a big problem. Other things that came from this study. The team found that first, religiousness was a strong, clear predictor of moral incongruence regarding porn use. And so again, we've got cognitive dissonance going on with, I feel bad about watching porn. I know I'm not supposed to. The church tells me I'm not. It's sinful. I need to confess. This is important as it indicates that we can and should use a person's religiousness as an indicator of the likelihood of moral conflict over porn use. And then we have, again, the caveat that not all people who are morally opposed to porn are religious, but it appears that religiosity captures the majority of people who feel this way. Fascinating. Which...
Interesting.
Is it really surprising?
No.
With it?
So religion is like anti-porn because it destroys marriages, but the reason it destroys marriages generally, obviously case-by-case basis, but generally is because of the problems that porn use while religious is causing people. So they're like, it's bad, and people are like just gravitating more toward it.
Yeah.
So
That's exactly it.
Okay. And to kind of bring it back around to the initial story, these girls had such a traumatic response to this magazine that they were digging through rocky soil and claim to have bloody hands from like trying to bury this magazine. And I wonder why they had such a response. Maybe because of the religious teachings that they were taught. And instead of having a response like that, if they had been taught the correct thing, maybe it would have opened a door to speak and ask questions with their parents or some other trusted adult about sex and sexuality.
Which they do later on in the book. We'll get to that a little bit later.
Well, I'm just going off the first chapter.
One of them does, so I will give them at least the credit for that.
That's what we like to hear.
But again, that kind of, it's not a predictor for a decent outcome in that situation because you don't know how parents are going to respond to these kinds of things. Like when I encountered it as probably a preteen, my mom's response was very, very shameful.
Yep.
That's still like those things are ingrained upon my brain. Those things stick with me. And she's not unique in that response. I feel like a lot of religious parents especially respond with it. Oh my God, this is like it.
Yeah. And and even as like maybe a less religious parent, it's probably still jarring.
It is. We don't want our children watching sexually explicit images.
Yeah.
And so that's obviously there's going to be a level of shock there, but it is really important to handle it in a careful and healthy way.
Yeah.
Which the Mormon Church does not do. Instead, we
attach shame.
And it's like inflicting upon self-worth. It means, I'm a bad person if I'm watching this stuff, or I'm a bad person if I'm
setting myself up to have a failed marriage.
Yeah. Well,
these are the kinds of things that would run through your head.
Like, there's lots of talk in the Mormon Church about thoughts and your thoughts. And so even having sexual thoughts within the Mormon context is sometimes treated as
because the thoughts
like you're
can
bad.
Lead to a sexual sin.
Right. And so these are the kinds of things that we need to
stop
be telling children.
We need to
especially. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of outline those things. And so the overlap between religiosity and porn use, and it's fascinating to hear about. And so, and we're by no means, we're just presenting you some of the research that I did. Could you find research out there that says porn is bad? Absolutely you can.
Yeah. Can you find unbiased research that says porn is bad?
It might be a little
hard to find.
There are studies out there that say porn is bad, but again, we can't like parcel out the different context for which this is happening. Like if a marriage is already on the rocks and somebody's watching porn, like there's a lot that goes into these types of research.
Context is key in this situation because not every relationship is going to be the same. And we'll say this to kind of cover our asses. We're not saying, just go watch porn. Your partner's definitely cool with it. Obviously, if you're married, this is a conversation that you need to be having with your partner. And
we're not at all, by all means, saying you have to go watch porn because it's okay. This is going to vary based on your moral belief system. We are by no means saying that if you are not a fan of porn that there's something wrong with you.
No.
Like it's your morals, it's your values, it's your beliefs. And those don't have to be tied to any type of religion or any type of religious framework. And so we're just trying to dispel some of the myths around pornography because this kind of breaks down some of the shame-based teachings that are happening surrounding it. Yeah. And so if it's not for you, it's not for you. I don't care. Again, we're not, in the words of Emily Nagoski, we're not going to yuck someone else's yum, all right? And if we're not being damaging or inappropriate or causing other people harm or pain, then it's not my place to say whether you should or should not. But that's why we're having these kinds of conversations, is because this information was not shared with us.
No.
Instead, we were told
better. Yeah. I remember being in a young priesthood quorum class, and they were telling us that oh, the world will tell you that scientifically masturbation is okay, but this is objectively false. Like, they were straight up, like, just dogging on science.
They do. I mean, and that's not uncommon in any context
definitely
for
not.
Mormonism.
But it's like, wow, we're really going to deny science instead we're going to impose these religious teachings that any sort of sexuality outside the bounds of marriage with a man and a woman, no solo, is inherently bad, which is just
not true.
Not true, and it's damaging, and it's hurting their own church because they have so many issues going on where marriages are being ruined over things that are maybe not a big deal if they were just talked about between spouses, teenagers feeling like they should mutilate themselves to stop this addiction, which is, I mean, you got hormones and
You're
stuff
a teenager.
like that. You're a teenager.
And this is part of the reason that Natasha, if you watched our previous video on purity culture in the Mormon church, that Natasha was excommunicated as a sex therapist. Obviously, she has an obligation and an ethical obligation to use evidence-based practice and science. Yeah. And by using that, she's saying that masturbation is healthy and normal, and kids can be doing it, and it's okay. And so just that teaching alone puts her in conflict with the teachings of the Mormon church, and she was excommunicated because of it. And so we're trying to dumb down those things and say, let's talk about this, because these are like, you say pornography in a Mormon church and heads turn, man. This is a hot topic.
Oh yeah. You can hear a pin drop because everybody's sitting there awkwardly thinking about their own porn experiences, because I mean, this is the 21st century. Like, you're going to come across it, and if you say you haven't, I'm sorry, but you're lying. Your kids are going to come across it. Like, I hate to tell you, but your kids will. And so we have to take steps and be prepared and handle it, and be prepared to handle it in a way that doesn't shame our children into oblivion. Okay? Yeah. That's the whole point of this. And so we understand that this is awkward to talk about. I don't want to come on here and talk to our subscribers about pornography, but yeah, if this video tanks, I
totally
100% understand why.
But for some people, this is needed information. This is going to be helpful. Yeah. This type of information is not shared in the church, which is why we feel like it needs to be shared. And you can I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a sex therapist. I'm not a certified sex therapist. I'm not a therapist of any kind. And so if you want to go do research on this, you absolutely can. I just encourage you to look at evidence-based practices regarding healthy sexuality and what that looks like, because it's not what the Mormon church teaches. So yeah, I'll hop off my soapbox.
We'll get off the soapbox. We'll wrap this one up so you don't have to continue to listen to us about this. Now, so let's take a deep breath. We're all a little red in the face. That's okay. I did want to... I see a lot of comments asking us questions about like specific Mormon doctrines that maybe we don't cover all the time. I want to open up like a little discussion. I think there's a little discussion tab on our channel. And if you have a specific question, I want to do like some Q&A ones where we just go through those and just, rapid fire kind of talk about them real quick, or maybe make an entire video dedicated to them. Because when it's in the comments, it kind of gets lost.
And we can't articulate a great response like through comments.
Yeah, through comments, it kind of sucks.
And so message us on Instagram.
I think we'll try to
do it on YouTube.
Yeah, the discussion board on our channel. Definitely hit that up. Maybe I'll put a link in the description. That way you can go straight to it. If you have a question to ask us about Mormon doctrines or things like that, we need to get like a lot of stuff under wraps. But we've got like a backlog of topics to talk about. So definitely hit it up there. But other than that, we'll take this one to the end. We'll bring it to a close. Hit that like button, smash it, please.
Please do, because I know this is going to get unliked into infinity.
If it gets disliked into oblivion, so be it. It is what it is. But if you're not subscribed, if you're not one of the 4,100 now as of today beautiful people that follow us, Definitely hit that subscribe button so you can become one of those people. I think we're going to be announcing 5K is coming up quick. So we're going to have to think about announcing like a contest or something, or like some sort of 5K giveaway or something. So be subscribed so that you have a chance to win. We'll figure out something to do for that. Follow us on Instagram. Jordan's active as shit on Instagram right now. She's been blowing it up. So follow us on Instagram.
I respond to almost all DMs, and I realize that's not going to last for very long, but I do really try to make an effort. There is just a backlog, so be patient with me.
Yeah, so follow us on Instagram. TikTok, if you have it. They're both at Jordan and McKay, so you can find us there. Check out our Teespring, too. We've got a couple things that we did when we were with the Dad Challenge podcast. And then also have a fabulous day, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks for being here.